Welcome to another QB Power Hour. Today's topic is APPify the Processes. Specifically, we're going to talk about conducting a needs assessment. So I'm very glad to have you joining us today. My name is Michelle Long. I'm a CPA and the owner of Long for Success. Thrilled to be an international trainer for Intuit, contract trainer for Intuit, going on almost 12 years now. Also the author of several different books. You can check those out, and I wanted to let you know my son, he's also a CPA, and I'm honored to say he's now working for Intuit. Anyway, he and I recently updated the QuickBooks Online practice set, so that has been updated. If you want to check that out, you're welcome to go find that on Amazon along with the other books. And also, I thank you for joining us here for the QB Power Hour. I'd love to have you join us on the Facebook group or in the LinkedIn group. All right, Dan, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Dan DeLong. I'm a former Intuit support agent. Spent about 10 years in the Diamond support team, and was recently impacted by a big reorganization and now doing my own thing, still supporting accountants like this, and just transforming businesses through technology. That's our mission at Danwit.
Awesome. Well, very glad to have you joining us today, Dan. So just a quick update on the QB Power Hours. If you haven't been joining us lately, you'll notice Hector and I have kind of split up, and now I brought in Dan DeLong to be my sidekick. He's smarter than I am, just like Hector was. I always like to have somebody smarter than me, right? Makes me look good. See, Dan, you didn't realize that, did you? Anyway,
the method to your madness. Is that it?
Yeah. Anyway, so I am going to continue with the QB Power Hour webinar series. We are not offering CPE at this time. It is too time consuming, and it's amazing how much time it actually takes to do the CPE process. And I'm not doing that. We do have the Facebook group. We've renamed it QB Power Users Community. So Hector and I are going to share the group. Neither one of us could bear to give that up. So the QB Power Users Community is our Facebook group. I would encourage you, please join our group, and we're all very active out there and would love to have you join us there. The topics for QB Power Hour are still going to be QuickBooks Online, QuickBooks Desktop. We're still going to include that. We're also going to include more stuff like on marketing and social media. We've talked about pricing, and I plan to do more on value pricing. Today, we're going to do APPify the Processes, where we're talking about third-party apps. So I'd love to have you joining us and continue joining us for all the QB Power Hours. Our goal is to always have topics that are helpful for you as an accounting professional to succeed in your business. The slides of all the webinars for the year can be found at that tiny.cc/QB Power Hour, QBPH handouts with an S, 2019. So bookmark that site. The handouts should be up there today, so you can download those as well as in the GoToWebinar toolbar. And if you ever miss a QB Power Hour, you can go find the handouts in that same folder. So go ahead and bookmark that folder so you've got that available to yourself. Pay attention to the capitalization, because I think if the link does not work, make sure that you have the right letters capitalized on that. Also, the recordings are going to be on my YouTube channel. I know there's still some I have not got uploaded but that's on my schedule for this afternoon, is to ensure this one and the others get uploaded. So go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube channel, and then you should be able to get an email notification when there's a new video that's been uploaded out there. So that's where you can find the handouts as well as the recordings on an ongoing basis. The QB Power Hour is a webinar series that's free for you guys every other Thursday, usually. We usually change it a little bit due to Scaling New Heights or QuickBooks Connect, or Thanksgiving always falls on a Thursday. So for the most part, it's every other Thursday. Our next episode is going to be on May 30th, and we will have Rich Priest, the Intuit Global Account Segment Leader, joining us, and we're going to be talking about QB Live. I know there's been a lot of discussion about that out in the Facebook group and things like that. And I would ask one thing about the Facebook group. It's okay to express your concerns and to discuss things out there, but let's not get into an Intuit bashing session and be totally negative all the time. If you are really totally negative all the time, maybe you need to put yourself in timeout and take a break from posting for a little while and cool down because it does bother some people, and some people have asked us to kind of censor, if you will, and I don't want to do that. but we don't want it to be just a total rant fest and complaining and, intuit bashing all the time. So let's try to keep it constructive. You can, like I said, you can voice your concerns, but let's try to have it be in a constructive manner, not just bashing and ranting. All right. Also, Hector's webinars. He is doing advanced webinars on the third Thursday. So he's doing one a month. You can get CPE if you are a paid subscriber. It is free, but you don't get CPE unless you're a paid subscriber. So you can check that out today. As soon as we get done, he's going to be talking about a deep dive into inventory, which is great because Dan and I on the last QB Power Hour talked about some common mistakes with inventory, and now Hector's going to be doing a deep dive into inventory for you on that. Also, as I mentioned, the live QuickBooks Roadshow is taking place. It started this week. It makes me very sad to see Heather and others saying, I'm on my way to the Roadshow to start training, and I'm still grounded. I can't go training yet. I can't go on a boat ride yet, but I'm standing now a little bit for a few seconds. It's right, baby steps. I will be there soon enough. So anyway, also I wanted to let you know about the VCon coming up. That is next week, the virtual conference, and it's a 2-day. It's covering the core certification, the advanced certification, as well as the recertification. So I will be covering like 7 sections of the advanced certification. Love to have you join us for that VCon, and you can find all that at qbtrainingevents.com. Also, Scaling New Heights in Salt Lake City. Dan and I are both going to be there. We'd love to see you guys there and have you join us. That is a great conference if you can make it, and there's still time available so that you could join us and sign up and go to Scaling New Heights. Okay, so for our agenda today, we're going to talk about the basics of conducting a needs assessment. Before I do that, let me talk about the whole APPifying the processes and what I mean when I'm saying that. With large companies, let's say 10 years ago, these large companies had ERP systems, and they had these huge systems that they would spend millions of dollars on to have a purchasing module, and they'd have operations, and they'd have inventory, and they had all these specialized systems that small businesses could not afford. That's changed now with the cloud, with these third-party apps. Now we can create these small mini ERP systems for our small business clients where they can get the benefit of amazing technology to help them streamline their workflow, reduce duplicate data entry, and it improves their efficiency, and ultimately research proves that small businesses that invest in technology, it improves their sales and their profitability. So we've got QuickBooks Online as the core, and you do have some apps for QuickBooks Desktop. I will say that. I think it's desktopapps.com. Desktop.apps.com. Is that correct?
Yeah, desktop.apps.com, yes.
Thank you, Dan. So there are some apps out there for desktop as well. I'm primarily focused on QuickBooks Online in this APPify the Processes webinar series. So QuickBooks Online is your core general ledger package. Then you have some clients, not all clients, where they have special needs or industry-specific information, or they want to do some things that QuickBooks cannot handle. And that's where APPifying the Processes comes into play. For example, let's say you have plumbers or electricians. There's apps for scheduling where the customer can actually schedule their own appointment. The plumber can look and see, and it shows him where he's going next, pulls up the map, gives him directions, and all that stuff, all from one app. And so, now you don't have to have somebody scheduling appointments. The customers are doing it themselves. He can accept the payments with a credit card out in the field. He can enter the sales receipt, actually on the QBO mobile app. And so there's all kinds of different ways that we can help clients really enhance QuickBooks Online. So we're going to go through and talk about, first of all, just the basics of doing a needs assessment. Then we're going to go through each of the primary functional areas, like sales and accounts receivable, purchases and accounts payable, operations, inventory, payroll, reporting. And we'll be talking about what are some of the questions you need to ask your clients when you're doing a needs assessment to help identify needs for them. And so that's where we're going today. APPifying the Processes, helping to find third-party apps that integrate with QuickBooks to streamline the workflow for our clients as well as for us. There's over 550 apps that are at apps.com for QuickBooks Online. And might be over 600 by now because they keep adding new apps all the time. So whenever you're looking for something, there's probably an app for that. Just like for your phone, the apps on your phone really are what makes your phone so valuable to you. These third-party apps can make QuickBooks really valuable and enhance QuickBooks Online for your clients.
Yeah,
so first of all,
that's
go ahead, Dan.
a great analogy of thinking of your phone. You know, whether you're an Android or an iPhone user, you know, it comes with a core group of functionality that it does out of the box, but still there are a lot of things that you can do on your phone that are app related, and this is exactly the same kind of scenario, is that you can get more out of your device, or in this case more out of QuickBooks or your business by adding on apps. And you know, from my perspective, you know, working at Intuit for so long, you know, we knew all about these apps, but there was so many to know that we couldn't really get into a deep dive of all of them. So we always had to kind of, we handled the connection, you know, between the app and QuickBooks, but as far as the interaction between the app and QuickBooks, that we kind of had to defer that out to the app itself. So this was really exciting for me to really kind of get into this area that was always kind of like a mystery.
Yes, very good. Thank you for adding that, Dan. And I went ahead and launched a poll question while you were talking about it. And I'm using my iPad instead of a second monitor, so I got to get closer so I can read it. It's too darn small. I need new glasses. Isn't that terrible? How do you feel about QuickBooks Online and changes in the accounting industry related to the cloud? How comfortable are you with QuickBooks Online? And you know, I was the first one initially. I was hesitant at first, but now I love it. I wasn't sure about QuickBooks Online until I learned some navigating trips, how to have multiple windows open at the same time, how to have multiple companies open, to do the keyboard shortcuts. And Dan and I covered that in a webinar about a month ago or so you can look for that recording later today if it's not up there already. So I was hesitant at first, but some of you I know are still reluctant. So go ahead and answer that poll question. And if you're still reluctant, I hope you at least have an open mind, because this is where the industry is moving to. Bookkeeping as we knew it is becoming obsolete very rapidly. You know, and I was telling Dan, I did an APPify the Processes webinar series for the first time 5 years ago in 2014. So, you know, I told Dan I was ahead of the curve back then. Now we're catching up with the curve because this is where it's at now. We need to be talking about these apps and embracing these things. So I'm going to go ahead and close that poll question, and I will share those poll results with you if I can get it. There we go. So 58% of you, there we go, said you were hesitant at first. 29% of you were still not sure but willing to learn more. 13% reluctant and skeptical. And I hope that, you know, as you learn more about it, I hope that you get more open to that, because this is, you know, if you want to continue to flourish and thrive, this is a great area for you to expand your services working with your clients, because basic bookkeeping is definitely changing and going away. It's being automated. And with artificial intelligence, AI, that's changing a lot too. There's already, Dan, what's the name of that one for QuickBooks self-employed? What's the name of the AI? I can't remember the name of it. Well, you can ask it. What's in my checking account?
So it's
how much
QB.
How much?
You know, like she doesn't have a name.
I can't.
There were some names. Yeah, the QB assistant. I actually thought it would be, you know, they usually have like a cute name, you know, for the person.
Right.
And we wanted to do something, you know, to in honor of Scott Cook. So I suggested Cookie, you know.
Oh, that's cute. That's cute.
Well, they never went anywhere.
Yeah. But, you know, these small businesses with that QuickBooks Assistant, they can say, how much do I have in my bank account? How much did I make this month? How much should I make this month versus last month? They can ask it those things, just like you can ask Siri things if you've got an iPhone. You can ask it these things, and it's going to give you the answers. So our industry is changing. So what we want to do is we want to work with our client to APPify the processes. The first step in that is conducting a needs assessment. We need to talk to the client to determine how their business runs, and we need to ask them some basic questions as we go through all the functional areas with them. Who's going to do the work and who needs access to what areas? What needs to be done? When's it going to be done? Where is it going to be done? Where is it going to be stored? Why it needs to be done, and how it's going to be shared. So ask some of these basic questions on all of these functional areas, and Dan and I are both going through it, asking some of these questions to give you ideas what to talk to your clients about. One of the things you want to do when you're doing a needs assessment is don't just ask the owner or the managers, tell me how you process a sales. You know, when you get a sales order, how do you do that? What happens when it comes in from the client? And how do you do this and how do you do that? Ask the people who are doing the work, ask the employees, because they'll say, oh yeah, well, no, we can't do it that way. We really do it this way. You know, the employees are the ones that will tell you, well, yeah, we should be able to do that, but we can't because of this. And, you know, we have to do this manually, and then we have to redo this and enter it into QuickBooks. And make sure you talk to the people who are actually doing the work, not just the owners and the managers. And we need to ask open-ended questions and then listen. We need to listen twice as much as we speak. And that's where we tend to, as accounting professionals, we tend to say, oh, I can help with that. Oh, I got an app that will help fix that. Or we've got something for this. We want to start offering solutions. We just are gathering data and seeking to understand their operations at this point and mentally making notes, but we need to listen and ask those open-ended questions. Also, we want to determine how are they operating, including things that are out of the norm. What do you do when there's a return? What do you do when a client's unhappy? What do you do when something breaks? What do you do in situations that aren't the normal workflow? Also ask them these are great open-ended questions. Tell me what you dislike about your job. What is it that you hate doing? And you might hear from somebody that, I hate when, you know, Dan goes out in the field and he does his plumbing work, and then he comes back in and gives me the sheet, and I have to fill in the invoice or sales receipt. I can't read Dan's writing, and so I just hate doing that, you know. Well, then maybe we need an app for Dan to do it in the field so we don't have duplicate data entry and stuff. What would you like to change? What are things that you don't like? People love, especially when they're complaining about their job. They love to tell you, you know, this is so stupid. Why are we doing this? I wish we could do this differently. Also, what bottlenecks and delays do you encounter? What holds you up and prevents you from doing your job? These are all some things that we want to be asking them as we're going through the needs assessment. Your goal with the needs assessment is to understand their operating processes, and we want to map it out, and I've got a slide for that somewhere. We want to identify those opportunities where we can streamline and automate the workflows so that people aren't doing duplicate data entry, and you enter things once or not at all, so we can look for those opportunities. A lot of these small business clients, we really can help them and make a huge difference in their business by doing some of this. I had a plumber come in not that long ago. I don't know if he's a plumber. No, I don't think so. Refrigerator guy. He fixed the ice maker on my refrigerator. And I said, okay, so can I pay you with credit card? He says, yeah, I'll write it down, take it back into the office, and then we'll process it. I said, oh, no, no, no. I said, you know, I'll write you a check instead. And I said, did you know you can receive credit cards in the field? Yeah, you know, I use QuickBooks. I knew we could do that. I don't know how to set it up. You can help him set it up. You can help him use the QuickBooks mobile app so he could enter the sales receipt on his phone, accept the payment on his phone, and be done with it. So there's areas where we really can help these small business owners. They don't have the time to figure it out for themselves. We can help them. We also, in addition to understanding and identifying opportunities, we need to identify what are the must-haves. What must they have in an app? What are the must-have criteria? And what are things that are nice to have? In other words, you know, well, if it's got the mobile app, that would be nice to have, but it's not required. So what's required and what's nice to have? That's going to help us when we're selecting apps, because with 550 plus apps out there, you're always going to have multiple apps, and you should evaluate, you know, 3 to 5 apps maybe, and then you got to narrow it down to hopefully the final 2 and let the client make the final decision. Whoops. So first of all, Go ahead, Dan.
There's also mirroring kind of their aptitude. Whereas, if they're really, like I'm working with a client right now where he's happy entering things in a journal entry, and I know that he's totally underutilizing QuickBooks in general, but that's where he's happy and that's where he's comfortable. But building that, the app stack on top of that, once you get him familiar with where he's at, and now he's at the point of, okay, well, now I'm really comfortable with doing what I'm doing here. Now let's add on the workflows and maybe those apps to make your life even easier.
Oh my God, Dan, I wasn't sharing my screen.
Oh, there we go.
I get an F for the day. I have flunked. That is awful. I've been doing this how many years? I've been doing this how many years? I should know better. Okay, you all have the slides. I can't believe more people weren't yelling at me about that. I am so sorry. That was 20 minutes. So here's the agenda slide. I will have to try to fix the recording. Here's the APPify the Processes slide, the basics of a needs assessment. You can see that here. Then listen first on conducting a needs assessment. And then here's where we're ready for the sales and accounts receivable. I'm going to chalk it up to the paid meds that I'm still taking.
That's a good idea.
I'm going to say it's because of that. Yeah, cut me some slack. I'm still on paid meds. All right. Anyway, so sales and accounts receivable. These are some questions you want to talk to your clients about. Is there a point of sale system or another third-party sales system that they may already be using for sales? They may have a system that's not integrated with QuickBooks. There's a way that you can create that integration to get the information into QuickBooks. Do they use sales receipts, or are they doing invoices and receiving payments? What payment methods are they accepting? Do they already have a merchant services account? Does that integrate with QuickBooks well? If not, sometimes I'll have a third-party merchant services account where it comes over each individual one instead of batching it. So reconciling at the end of the day is terrible. So talk to them about some of those things. Where does the sales take place? Is it like with the refrigerator repair guy, where the sales taking place at the customer's location? Is it in an office? Is it in a retail store? Is it online through a website with an e-commerce shopping cart? Where do the sales take place? Are there commissions involved for salespeople? As you know, QuickBooks Desktop and Online, neither one calculate commissions. There's some workarounds that you can try to do, but they don't do a good job of calculating commissions and paying commissions to your sales reps. And any other relevant and specific questions around sales and accounts receivable, including, order fulfillment, back orders, tracking, shipments and tracking, and things like that. And that's where you may have a number of different apps. Dan, do you want to give a 1-minute explanation of how you might have several apps, for example, with WebGility?
Yeah, I mean, you can stack those apps on top of each other. Like if they're selling things online, you can use something like WebGility or some other Shopify synchronization tool. But then like T-Hub is another one. You can have multiple ones that do similar things, and it's really important to get an understanding of what it is that those apps will do. Like, I see on the screen here now that you're sharing the PayPal, the connect with PayPal, knowing what that's gonna send over to QuickBooks. Definitely get on their demo schedule and really understand what to expect. Just because it says, hey, we'll synchronize with QuickBooks, doesn't necessarily mean that that's the outcome. Now that you have that, and that's really important, why to have that needs assessment first, finding what that pain actually is, so that the app that you're going to be recommending solves that pain.
Right. Very good. Thank you, Dan. Then we also want to talk to them about purchases and accounts payable. Where do the purchases take place? A lot of times, if you've got people like plumbers, electricians, contractors, they're out in the field doing their work, and they run by the Home Depot or Lowe's or the plumbing warehouse or wherever. They may be purchasing materials and supplies all throughout the day. So having a mobile app would probably be very important for those. How do they pay for their purchases? Are they, paying for it with credit cards or debit cards? I always recommend they use debit and credit cards mostly. instead of checks, just because it's easier to download that information and automate the process? Or are they entering bills and paying bills? Are they using accounts payable? Do they have an approval process for those purchases if they're using accounts payable? So if somebody's getting all the bills and entering all the bills, then does somebody have to go through and approve those prior to them being paid? That's where you might need something like bill pay from bill.com. And you can see in the screenshot here, you now have, there's bill.com, which gives you the approval process. That's the blue one on the far right. That gives you the approval process. But there's now online bill pay within QuickBooks Online, just like we used to have in Desktop, where you could say pay online from within QuickBooks, and it pushes that payment out to the bank and it makes the payment for you. That is now available. It's bank online bill pay within QuickBooks Online. It's bill.com Lite, if you will. So, that's something you'll want to look into. And one of the things I recommend as an accountant or a bookkeeper, you should have the owner of the company or whoever, somebody within the company, approving payments to be made or pushing the final button that says to pay these bills to protect yourself from a liability standpoint. And I'm going to go ahead and launch another poll question here, just because I have great polls, I think, today to get more information about you all, and as well as sharing with each other, so you can see what other people are thinking and answering and things like that. So somebody was saying about, yes, they were talking about the pay bill with bill.com. Somebody was saying it's $10 a month to be able to pay bills. Yeah. I haven't been able to find this. The online bill pay that I'm talking about, when you go look under purchases and accounts payable and you look at online bill pay, I think it's like free for ACH and or 99 cents for a paper check, I think, and free for ACH. But there could be a fee for ACH. I can't remember. Dan, do you remember the pricing on that?
Yeah, I think it's $1.49 for paper checks and 99 cents for ACH.
Gotcha.
And then there is a small monthly fee like the $10. Since we're talking about that, there was always an issue where it came with sometimes with accountants setting up apps for their clients. And there was a period of time there where we actually, where Intuit actually removed the ability to even see the App Center because of the mislinking of the individual that actually would set up the app. Now at least you have that option back with when you're the master administrator of your firm, you can set up apps for your clients, and there's not a disconnect there. But bill.com, the bill pay is still one of those apps that doesn't allow accountants to set up or even access some of that information with setting up the bill.com bill pay functionality. So just keep that in mind, that there still may be some of those apps that are out there that you as an accountant or a bookkeeping professional may not be able to set those up properly for them, and you may need to get the client involved. So just bear that in mind as you're doing these needs assessments.
And that's a great comment, Dan. And actually, one of the future APPify webinars that we'll do includes, identifying and setting up and connecting those apps and managing those apps and things like that. So we will do more on that in a future webinar. So that's a great comment there, Dan. Now, I'm sharing the results of this poll question. On average, how many apps do you say you or your clients use to manage your business? And this is a very interesting one. And keep in mind, if you've got an email where you've got email on your computer and you can see email on your phone as well as email on your iPad, you're using an app for that. All right, same thing with your calendar. When you've got something syncing between all of your devices, that's an app you're using for your business. So I think this is interesting because you all were just like me. I got it wrong too. Intuit actually did a survey several years ago. I don't know, 2-3 years ago, they did a survey. The average small business is using 18 apps to manage their small business. I said, no way. I got my phone out. I got my tablet out. I wrote down all the apps that I used for my business, and it was over 20. So I was shocked. So a lot of our clients, they're using these apps. They're using the apps not, for banking and things like that, but they're, they're ordering stuff off of Amazon, or they're shopping on eBay, or they're shopping on somewhere else. They're ordering pizza from there. They're ordering groceries off an app. They're checking football and baseball scores. People are doing everything on their phone. It's only natural they want to do their banking and their bookkeeping and their QuickBooks and their accounting on their phone as well. So that's where I think sometimes we as accounting professionals need to catch up, because our clients are already using a lot of apps and seeing the needs for those. And I will point out, we talked about accounts payable and stuff, but we didn't talk about apps that capture those expenses like Receipt Bank, Expensify, and others. All the client has to do is take a picture of that. Like with Expensify or Receipt Bank, you take a picture, it scans it, reads it, and you can set it up in the settings and map it so it actually does all the data entry for you. They don't have to enter the transaction at all. They take a picture of it, and it's going to get posted into QuickBooks as a transaction. So you just automated that whole workflow there. If they need expense reports, Expensify makes that super easy as well. They could use the QBO mobile app for free, but it doesn't do the OCR. They have to actually enter the details. Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, that's one of those things that really kind of raises up to the surface how technology is taking the place of what we used to do as as bookkeeping professionals, where it's just you take a picture of a receipt or whatever it is, and it reads it for you, and then so now you're moving from the entry piece of what you used to do to now the management piece and the advisory, and that's really where things are really headed.
Exactly, and that's why our industry is changing, and we need to start doing things like, this app consulting and services and stuff. So I'm really glad you all are here today. Dan, do you want to go through the next couple quickly?
Yeah, so we're going to talk a little bit about operations. Again, you want to understand the flow of their operations. Do they have a particular sales department or an operations manager? Is scheduling really important for them? Do they have sales and work in the field or the office? I'm in a BNI group, and a lot of the tradesmen there love that House Call Pro. They really like the fact that it can schedule appointments. It reminds their customers some of the things that QuickBooks is not going to do right out of the box. Whether it's Jobber or another Shopify app or any of the other apps that are out there, and then it's really just more based on their type of business. What are their needs, and what apps are out there that can fulfill those needs, whether it's a field service management or like one of the ones that you have here.
Yes. Okay, thank you, Dan. And then how about inventory?
Yeah, so last time when we talked about inventory is can be a huge gap, I guess. Is that the easiest way to describe it?
Yeah.
Especially with QuickBooks Online, it's the I buy, sell stuff, and I sell stuff. I don't really do much to that stuff. So if you got someone who's manufacturing, a restaurant that might want to keep track of their inventory, if they're resale or wholesale, all of those are going to have a variety of needs that are not going to be fulfilled right outside of the box, technically, so to speak. There's no box with QuickBooks Online, but
yeah.
Do they have that perpetual or physical inventory? Are they just doing their inventory on a routine basis? Do they already have a separate third-party system in place? And if that would synchronize, do they need a bridge between the two? If they have employees who are dedicated to just doing the inventory, and that's another thing that's really when we talk about apps, you're going to have a user limitation within QuickBooks by itself. If they already have plus, they have up to 5 users, they can avoid the forced upgrade to advanced by adding on these apps. So that's another value conversation that you can have about that. So I just wanted to add that in there too.
Dan, I would add to that too. Sometimes people want a third-party app, like let's say inventory, because they don't want the people who are working with inventory to have access to the rest of QuickBooks. So,
Right.
so you're right about the user number and the user limits and things, but also from a security perspective, because when you have a QuickBooks user, they can use the QuickBooks mobile app and they can see the balance sheet and the P&L. At least I don't think that's been updated yet. The user permissions don't restrict them from seeing those reports. So some small business owners say, you know what, I'm going to use this third-party app like for inventory so that the people working with inventory only see what's in that inventory app. They can't access any of the rest of QuickBooks. So along with the number of users, there's that security standpoint as well.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great point too. Because there's no argument that the security or user permissions in QuickBooks Online can't be enhanced a little bit. I always explained it like it's an on-off switch. You either have it all or not, and there's no dimming involved.
Yeah,
and this allows you to give a little bit more dimming to your security.
And Dan, another thing that I might add is, you just talked about operations, and now we're talking about inventory. Sometimes these apps might be one and the same. If they're building and manufacturing inventory, that might be their operations. So, we've split them out here, but they could be interrelated depending on the company. Keep that in mind as well. It depends on the needs of the company and stuff. And operations and inventory could be like Dan mentioned with a web stack, an app stack with something like Webgility or something where you have multiple apps. You've got your inventory app, you've got your e-commerce shopping cart, you have a shipping app, where you have all these different apps that might be integrating with Webgility, and then Webgility integrates with QuickBooks. So you may have multiple apps, not just one in these different categories. So don't be scared. And this is going to put me off on my tangent, Dan. I'm sorry. Don't be scared, too, about, oh, my God, my clients won't want to pay for that, right? I hear that all the time. My clients don't want to pay for QuickBooks every month. Why are they going to pay for an app every month? We need to get over that. Our clients a lot of times realize the benefits of these apps. A good example of this is another pro advisor was working with a client trying to find inventory apps, and I was consulting with her, and we identified an app that we thought would be perfect. It was around $300 a month for that inventory app. And she's like, oh, no, my client's never going to want to do that. I said, let's talk to the client about the benefits of the app, what it will do, and let's let them decide. Okay, but he's not going to go for it. He won't want to pay that. He was thrilled. He's like, oh, my God, really? I can cut like one head count out of the warehouse, maybe two people, $300 a month, a bargain compared to paying those employees, and I can move them over to sales. So a lot of times a small business owner realizes the impact and the implication that these apps can have on their business and on their workflow and their efficiency and productivity. So we need to realize the benefits often way, way outweigh the costs. Here's the example. Many of you, if you've been following me for a while, you've heard it before. How many of you do taxes? Probably about a third to a half of you, right? How many of you use tax prep software? Probably 100% of you that do taxes use tax prep software. And I say, why? Why do you spend hundreds and thousands of dollars on your tax prep software? Theoretically, you could go to irs.gov, download the PDF, and do it manually and save hundreds and thousands of dollars. And everybody laughs. That's absurd. Why would you do it manually? When you use the technology, when you use tax prep software, you're able to do way more tax returns and ultimately make less mistakes, so fewer mistakes, they're more accurate, you do more tax returns, you make more money, you're more profitable. Even though you might be spending thousands of dollars on your tax prep software, it ultimately makes you more profitable. So we need to get over the cost, especially when we talk about app stacking, because to the client's business, it's a huge impact. Sorry, Dan, that was my rant.
That's okay. Coming back from the weeds, but that does bring up another good point there. Of going from billable hours, to value billing. Something that used to take you an hour now takes you 5 seconds. By taking a picture of a receipt. If you're actually to bill for that. Now you're undervaluing your services, and that's that's exactly where the way things are kind of driving here. So again, you're going from, the automation, or going to the automation, as opposed to, the entry,
Yep.
So, again, with payroll, a lot of questions to ask. How many employees? It also does that same thing that we were talking about with security. If you don't want to have someone have access to that payroll information, maybe another app that would keep people out of payroll to be able to do that. Are they hourly or salaried folks? What's their pay schedule like? And then we go back to that commissions thing. As you know, QuickBooks does not calculate the commission. So do they need something that would help them calculate their commissions? And then those other benefits like retirement, or what's the garnishments? That's the word I was looking for. QuickBooks itself doesn't automatically pay those things. Time tracking, that's a big thing. Do they bill for time, or do they bill it back to their client? Do they need to track that cost back to their jobs or projects? And then do they have things allocated by class, location, or those jobs? And then who's going to do it? Will it be regular checks? Who's going to file the quarterly and annual filings? And that ties back to what you were just saying, Michelle, about doing it yourself versus having something do it for you. Like the full service payroll and those types of things that will do those filings for you. It only takes one missed filing to realize the value of what you may have been needing to pay for, to have someone actually do it for you and back you up if something doesn't get filed properly.
Very good. Then another big area to talk to the clients about is reports and dashboards and things. So in addition to the standard reports, are there any custom reports or information that management would like to see? And this is a good one where you sit and you talk to the client, especially the owners and the managers. What is some information that you would like to see or you'd like to know that you don't know yet, or you can't get that? Maybe you have a feel for it, but you don't know. Are there some specific reports that they want on a regular basis? What reports do they want and what frequency? Maybe you could schedule in QuickBooks Online, you can schedule reports to auto send those. So you could email, let's say, the salespeople. Maybe they want a daily sales or a weekly sales report. Maybe they want the outstanding invoices every week. Maybe there's certain reports that you want to send them. Or do you want to set up a dashboard for the client where they can look at some things themselves? So asking them what reports they need and stuff like that. Do they have any loan covenants to adhere to? If your client has a small business loan from the bank, if they have the bank loan, the bank normally requires in the loan documents, they have what they call loan covenants. In other words, your current ratio must always be 1 or greater. Your debt to equity ratio must not exceed this. And that, they'll have specific ratios that client is supposed to adhere to make sure they're financially strong. You could have dashboard set up with some key performance indicators so that you can monitor their ratios for them using that third-party app to ensure they're in compliance and things like that. So, there's some of these dashboards that are great for doing that. You can set it up to where you have access to it and maybe you give a report to the client on a periodic basis, or you can give the client access to the dashboard as well. And then also those other key performance indicators. And again, having you monitor them or them monitor them. Key performance indicators like if it's a restaurant, sales per table, sales per customer, retail store sales per square foot. There's a variety of different special key performance indicators that you might want to be tracking. So you've got the nice management reports that are available within QuickBooks Online, but you can get more robust reporting apps out there. For example, Covinci allows you to go in and let's say you had a franchise, they have 5 different restaurants. The owner of the company could say, I want to see a report that compares sales with restaurants with the drive-through, sales of restaurants without a drive-through. And you can do that with Covinci. Covinci is amazing at consolidations. It can even take things from a variety of systems. Somebody could be some of the stores are on QuickBooks Desktop, some could be on QuickBooks Online, some could be on something else, and it can consolidate and pull all of those together into consolidated reports for you. Plus, you can slice and dice those reports, so it's amazing. Some of the other ones, like Fathom and Spotlight reporting, can give you some of the key performance ratios and some of the those indicators and things. Finagraph's cash flow forecasting tool is amazing to help you forecast cash flow way better than the what's in QuickBooks Online. It allows you to go in and customize things and change things. And for small businesses where cash flow is really tight, that's something that might be really important for them to be using to help them manage that. So this is another area where we can help enhance our clients by looking at some of these third-party apps for them as well.
Yeah,
and Dan, go ahead.
I was going to say that you know, in general, QuickBooks, the reports that come out of QuickBooks are two-dimensional. You know, you have one side of the transaction or the other side, and typically where this is going to come up is that they're going to need a third dimension, and you know, where it's comparing this to that and then tying them together. And that's where these apps are going to come in really handy, because they're going to just pull all the data and then allow you to manipulate it however it is that you want. You know, whether it's something, you know, and you can kind of think of it in terms of, am I sending all this stuff to Excel and letting Excel do the magic for me? then now we might want to be looking at one of these apps to fill that as an automated type of thing.
Yeah, and you know, Dan, I might add, a lot of these apps give you graphs, and I used to joke with my clients, they liked a picture book instead of a number book. When I would give them monthly reports, they wanted it as a picture book. They wanted the graphs. They wanted to see the trend lines and the bar charts and the things like that, because they could relate to that and understand that. If I give them reports with numbers on them, like the profit and loss, the monthly P&L, things like that, their eyes would glaze over and it meant nothing to them. So having a picture book, which a lot of these apps give you the graphical representations, or what we used to call a stoplight graph with, you know, red, yellow, and green. Green was good, yellow was medium, and red was not good. You know, so you have stoplight charts and things like that out there. So you've got a very graphical representation. And when a lot of these small business owners start realizing, you know, QuickBooks, you can get reports to see profitability per item. So what's their item profitability? What are their sales by product or service item? What are their sales by customer? But when you get in and start seeing some more of those details, and you can help the clients realize, you know, areas to focus on, things that they might want to drop. You know, for example, I had one client and he had way too much inventory. You know, and I would be like, you know, why do you carry this particular thing? I called it the dust test. He had a specialty sporting goods store, and if you walked in and there was dust on it, that means they're not selling very many of them, right? And I was like, why do you keep this? He's like, well, we're the only one in town that carries it. No shit, Sherlock. Nobody's buying it, you know? Nobody wants it. If you're not selling it, why are you carrying it? So if you can go through and see, you know, your best-selling items, and you can say, okay, look, these 10 down here at the bottom, we don't sell a whole lot of those in a year. Let's get rid of them so we can allocate more time, more service, more shelf space to these other that are selling, you know, selling better. You know, and that's where, if you look at the large companies, they do an excellent job of that. The highest margin items are always on the end caps and at the check register and things like that, where you have impulse purchases. They maximize their shelf space based on some of the statistics and things. We can help our small business clients do that as well when they start seeing some of those numbers and things like that. So I love the reports and the reporting apps and the dashboards, because this is the payoff for doing the accounting. Yeah. Being able to see all of this good information. And this is where, as Dan mentioned earlier, as you know, like all the expenses are being automated and the workflows are being automated, this is where now we really can use the reports, and we can help our clients get the information they need to manage their business and be more profitable. So it's a great place for us to shine and add value for those clients. Right.
You're the tea leaf reader at this point. You know, now you have all this information laid out in front of you. What does it mean? You know, what does it mean to them? And then allows you to have that value-based conversation towards them.
Exactly, and that's something we can do that an app can't that well, that AI can't that well. So this is an area for us really to cement that that trusted advisor value relationship with the client is when it comes to the reporting and the dashboards and things like that. So I think that's great. So Dan, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
So somebody asked, what is the best app for a small home services company?
Yeah, so that's where, you know, the House Call Pro, I think is where a lot of, you know, like my BNI friends really like that for their service-based businesses. But you know, like you were mentioning earlier, there's 550, you know, coming up on 600, and those are just the ones that are advertised on apps.com. There's tons of other ones that are out there that don't advertise because, you know, the developer kit is available to anybody that wants to go and develop apps. They just don't have to. I mean, they just have to play by the rules of engagement, and then they can, you know, advertise. It's the software developer kit is available for people to download from and to it, and then, you know, to get on the App Store, then there's something, you know, else that they'll have to do to do that. But that doesn't mean that they don't, you know. Yeah. And there's so many that are out there that it's so hard to keep up with them all.
And that's the main point there. There's so many out there, and that's where, you know, when somebody always says, and I get this question all the time. That's why I love that question. Which one's the best for, in this example, a home services company? Which one's best for inventory? Which one's best in this situation? It depends on the needs of the client. We can never tell you one app is the best because it will vary based on individual clients. And so, you know, we can't do that. So we're going to go through and talk about some of these next steps on how you can narrow it down out of all the multitudes of apps and narrow it down. But before we do that, I want to address another question out here, and I can't find the question to read it exactly. But somebody asked, you know, hey, Michelle, I've gone through and did a needs assessment with my client, but then the client went and just bought that app and I didn't get paid. How do you get paid for a needs assessment? What you need to do is you need to talk to the client and create an engagement letter. So what I recommend you do is you might say, okay, well, listen, a needs assessment is time consuming on my part as well as your part. So the needs assessment is going to be $250. However, if you then engage me to do the app evaluation, selection, testing, implementation, training, all that, if you engage me, that $250 will be applied to the engagement. So basically, it doesn't cost them anything. But then if they go and do it on their own, at least you did get paid for your time. And one of the keys when you do the needs assessment, remember I said, listen, we ask all these questions. We probe the client. We identify pain points. We don't give answers. We don't give solutions. You don't give the names of apps. You don't give any of that. You just soak it all in. You're like the doctor listening to their symptoms, and you're not giving them a diagnosis until the very, very end, and that's part of your engagement. All right, so don't give it away during the needs assessment. That's key there. You're asking questions, you're listening, you're diagnosing the client and what their needs are. We're going to go through and we're going to map out their current processes and workflows. And this is important that you understand how the client's workflow works. Some people will map out the processes in the client's office if they're local with yellow sticky notes on a wall. And you know, is this how your workflow works? Is this correct? Take a picture of it when you get done. For bigger engagements, there's actually workflow diagrams that you can get out there for mapping the workflow. There's apps for that as well. For larger clients, bigger engagements, you might want to use that app. I can't remember the name of one offhand now, but there are apps out there to help you flowchart their workflow. So we want to do that. And as you're doing that, you're ensuring you understand the client and you're identifying the must-haves and the nice-to-haves in an app. The owner of the company says, well, it must be able to do this. We must be able to do that. It would be nice if it could do this, but that's not required. So you're identifying the criteria for the app. Because as Dan said, you know, there's over 550 apps in the App Store. And those apps, like Dan mentioned, that aren't listed at apps.com, there's thousands of them probably. You know, and you really have to do your work if they're not listed at apps.com. But you need to get out there and start researching those potential apps based on that client, their specific needs, their must-haves, and their nice-to-haves. So we're going to research these apps, and we have to then evaluate them. And we'll go in. I plan on doing more of these APPify the Processes webinar series on all these different functional areas, as well as these steps. You know, like we mentioned earlier, Dan was talking about connecting it to your QuickBooks or to the client's QuickBooks and managing it and things. We can do a whole nother hour on these topics. But you want to go through research potential apps. Let's say you come up with 5 potential apps. Then you have an Excel file where you list them all out, and these must-haves and nice-to-haves. You realize on the must-haves, only 3 of them meet all of the must-have criteria. So that gets rid of 2. Now you're down from 5 to 3. Then you look at the nice-to-haves, and maybe 2 of them have more than the other ones. Now we're down to 2 apps. Then you might go through, test those apps, and again, we could go a whole hour on testing and how to test it with the client data without using a live company file. So you'll go through and you'll test it. I definitely encourage you to use the client with this, because when it comes to usability, that's kind of a personal perspective. You know, some client, they may like this one better than that one because it's primarily blue instead of green. You know, it's subjective when you have 2 apps that can do basically the same thing. They meet all the must-haves and most of the nice-to-haves. Then it may come down to just user interface and which one do they prefer working with. So I always like to present the client with at least 2 choices to let them make the final decision. And then that way, you know, they're involved with the testing. They're involved in owning the selection. So they're buying ownership into that app. And they can't say, well, you told me, Dan said to use house call, and it didn't work for me because of this, that, and the other. You know, you're involving them in the process, and the owner's the one that says, I want to use house call. So then they've bought into it. That helps with the acceptance and the implementation of that. And something else to keep in mind, you don't have to be an expert in all of these areas. Let's say it's inventory. You might turn to other pro advisors that are really good in the inventory inventory area, and let them help with the implementation, the training, and the support of that third-party app. Or the app itself may provide the onboarding and the setup and the support for that app. So don't feel like you have to be an expert in all of these areas, and realize too that these third-party vendors and the developers that create the apps, they want to help you be successful. So a lot of them provide free training. A lot of them provide free support, pro advisor discounts, pro advisor programs. Some of them opt for certifications and things like that. So, you know, you're not going it alone when you're doing this. And definitely watch for more apps coming from Dan and I on APPify the Processes. And that's my kind of terminology when we're talking about third-party apps and implementing these apps, and we're automating the processes. We're APPifying those processes for those small businesses. Dan, you want to add something in our final minutes here?
Yeah, the most of the apps are going to have some kind of trial period. So it's a lot of the try before you buy. As much as you know, it would be a pain to set things up and then not use it, but at least it's something that you can you certainly can try it with them, see if it even, you know, fits their needs before there's any kind of investment on their side as far as, you know, diving in to the deep end as far as you know, utilizing the app on an ongoing basis.
Very good. That's a good add, Dan. And I'm just going to address a couple of questions that came through. I love what I think it was James said. Prescription without diagnosis is malpractice. I love that. No prescription without diagnosis, or it's malpractice. That's a good one, James. Thank you. And a lot of people were asking about, can you use Craig's Design and Landscaping for testing and things like that? And we'll go through in some future webinars, but in general, you can use something like ChronoBooks or Rewind, like you used to rewind a tape, Rewind. ChronoBooks and Rewind are 2 apps that allow you to back up the QuickBooks Online data. You can back it up and restore it. You can copy it and put it in a new company. So you can create a new company file, one of the free trials for 30 days. You create a new company file. You back it up using ChronoBooks. You can restore it or copy it over here to this new company file. Hook the app with the free trial like Dan mentioned. Then you can go in there and you're testing it with client's data, but without using the live company file. You don't ever want to use a live company file. So there are ways for you to do the testing with the client's data without jeopardizing their live company file. So we will talk more about some of these in future ones. I've got one last question here for you guys. one last poll question, and so let me launch that one real quickly. I should have done this one earlier. And I hope that you learned something new today. I had one more poll question on did you learn something new today, but we'll just skip that one. So hopefully you did learn something new today, but where are you when it comes to doing these services and providing consulting services regarding app selection and integration? Where are you all at on that? Because I really think not only is this an opportunity for you to expand your services and higher value services, which means you'll make more money, because you definitely would be charging these based on value pricing, not hourly basis. And it is very valuable for you to be providing this to your clients, but also as our job as bookkeepers and the basic accounting and bookkeeping is being automated, we need to look to other services and expand beyond doing just accounting and just bookkeeping. So I think APPifying the Processes is a great area to move into. So go ahead and answer that poll question. Some of you might be leaving us to join Hector in his advanced webinar on inventory. And if that's the case, thank you for joining us. I hope you'll join us again on the 30th when we have Rich Priest from Intuit Live. We're going to be talking about QuickBooks Live and talking with Rich about some of our concerns and giving you some updates. Remember, I have a unique perspective on this because my son now works for QuickBooks Live. He's a CPA. He moved to Boise, Idaho, and I had no idea Intuit was even doing this until Andrew got that position. And I texted somebody at Intuit, and I said, is this QuickBooks Live? And they said yes. So my son's working there. So I can give insights on both sides. I understand from the accountant and bookkeeper perspective the concerns that we have and the fears that we have, but now I'm also understanding Intuit's perspective and some of the things that they're doing as well. So join us on the 30th for that. Dan, any other comments?
Yeah, I won't be able to join you because I'll be in the bottom of the Grand Canyon that day, but I will be forwarding some questions. Hopefully that you'll be able to ask them.
Okay, good. Yeah, well, we will miss you then. All right, let's go ahead and close that poll question, and we'll share the poll results with you. 27% say definitely have already started. That's awesome. 41% say probably. 27% say maybe. So I'm really glad and to see that there's a lot of definitely's, probablys, and maybes, because hopefully we'll move more of the maybes and probably up to definitely as you learn more about it. I think that would be awesome. So any last comments or anything there?
No, I think I appreciate this particular topic because it was something that I needed for myself.
Well, great, good. Hopefully everybody else learned something today as well. And I hope you enjoy the Grand Canyon. We went hiked half the way in and back out. Gosh, 15 years ago? Long time ago. It was wonderful. So you're going to have an amazing adventure with that. So yeah. Thank you to everybody for joining us. Remember, join us in the Facebook group, QB Power Users, and love to see you out there as well as elsewhere on social, and love to see you back with us on May 30th. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Dan.
Bye. Have a great day.
Bye, everybody.